Hey, look, elves. 3 elves.
So we are talking about episode 2 of the first season of Tour of Duty. This one is called Notes from the Underground and is the tunnel episode. Now the main kind of plot with this particular episode is that there is this group of Viet Cong and NVA that are using tunnels to kind of basically evade being sort of captured or killed by the US, and in the initial part of the episode basically ends up with two kind of like squads running in and nearly killing each other. Then we kind of go to this village. Basically, Taylor is injured and captured by the Viet Cong or the NVA, and it's taken into the tunnels. And then we have an attempt to basically flush them out, go into the tunnels by a few people and get them out. So that's pretty much all I'll say on the plot of this particular episode. So let's talk about the negatives and positives of this particular episode. First of all, this episode has notable guest star James Pax, who you may know from Big Trouble in Little China. He was one of the Storms, and basically in this episode he plays a Viet Cong doctor. And this is one of the few episodes that we actually get somewhat of a perspective from the kind of the Vietnamese or the North Vietnamese. So that was quite good in regards to that, and we actually the NVA actually come out on top for a lot of this episode, which was a little different. One of the things I didn't like so much about the character that James Pax was playing is they kind of tried to age him up by kind of greying his hair a little bit, and it kind of looks a little fake. I don't know why you wouldn't have just got an older actor, to be honest, but there you go. Other issues that I have with this particular episode is again involving James Pax's character. This is towards the end of the episode. Basically, Taylor is captured, and they literally tell him the plan. They tell him their strategy for trying to basically cut ahead of the Americans to try and sort of cut them off and ambush them. And I don't know why you would tell an enemy combatant that. So that kind of bothered me. And the other issue as well was going back towards the beginning of the episode. I don't know why the US basically didn't consider tunnels beforehand. Basically, they seem to really question where these Vietnamese have gone, and the subject of tunnels doesn't actually come up until they literally find some. And obviously, you would have thought, having army intelligence and all of that, they would have at least considered that's possibly where the Vietnamese have been hiding. So again, a few little issues I have with this one, and maybe the plotting of it. On the plus side, like I said, this is a pretty decent episode. It somewhat focuses on Taylor. We get to know him a little better, and a little bit of his backstory. We learn he was basically drafted into it. He's not got all that long left on his tour, and we get a little bit of kind of fleshing out of his character. We also focus a little bit on the relationship between Anderson and Goldman, as they basically are at odds again on this episode, but at the end of it, they're basically kind of have a mutual respect for each other, and from this point on, it's more or less plain sailing. One of the things I really liked about this episode is when they were actually in the tunnels. The tunnel sequence is very well done. There are a couple of occasions where the set looks a little wobbly, but they're very much unsuccessful. When the Americans basically go into the tunnels, there's essentially 3 attempts, none of which are really successful. There's one that ends up kind of being somewhat successful, but there's 3 attempts. They basically end up getting either captured, killed, or injured. So I like the fact that this particular episode shows the American forces not really overcoming that particular obstacle straight away, and the way the traps are depicted with a variety of different kind of traps along the way, and we see people sort of coming in and out of the floors, stuff like that. I thought was pretty well done, and it also adds this kind of level of intrigue when we see that the Vietnamese basically have a stockpiles of US weapons, which was also quite good. So There's quite a lot of comedy in this episode as well. There's a few scenes normally involving Baker as the kind of the comedy relief in the episode. Pretty decent episode. I don't think it's quite as strong as the initial one. I think there's a few plotting issues with this one, but it's still overall a good arc. I'm going to give this particular episode a 7 out of 10. Have you seen this one? What did you think of it? Leave a comment and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.